All right, let's get back to the ultimate video studio computer build that I've been working on for about, well, good God, I bet it's been 3 months now. Mainly because I'm dumber than a bag of stones and I've had to do a tremendous amount of research. So far, I haven't made too many mistakes, but I always like to talk about my mistakes first. And let's get into the first huge mistake that I made was, okay, underneath here is a crucial T710 M2 drive, okay, that's going in the PCIe 5.0 slot. Okay, it's 4 terabytes. That's where the operating system is going to be installed. Now, I had to work with Grok. By the way, if you haven't worked with an AI, I don't know, a lot of people use ChatGPT. I like Grok. Now, Grok's not always correct about everything, but I can bounce questions off it, and it does a huge, good job of going out and searching the internet. So it has saved me a lot of time doing a lot of research. I've had nothing but questions, so let's get into the number one question that I just solved within the last week was the M2 drive arrangement, and we're going to get into all of the storage on a motherboard right off the bat here. So I asked Grok, well, all right, let me get into my mistake first. Okay, so if you look here, this is actually kind of like a tar-like material that is actually a heatsink to the motherboard. All right. Now, on top of the heatsink is a little plastic covering that you have to pull off. And I asked people, because there's nothing in the manual about it. There's nothing on YouTube videos that I've seen about it. But obviously, you can't leave that little. I mean, it's kind of, and even on the bottom of the heatsink. Let's look at this right here. You see that glistening off of the light? That's actually a little plastic cover. I don't even know why they do this, but I guess they have to. I don't know. But you're going to peel that off before you put the heatsink cover back on the drive. I'm still waiting on one more drive, and we're going to get into this arrangement here in 1 second. But what happened was this heatsink will actually peel right up off of the motherboard. So when I was taking the plastic covering off right here in the CPU A slot, and we're going to get into the A, B, and C here in just 1 second, I peeled the heatsink right off of the motherboard. And I was going to throw it away. I thought it was part of just that plastic covering. And then I kind of rethought things. And man, I had to go back. I did a tremendous amount of research. And it finally dawned on me. I said, well, okay, let's go to the manual. And I just wanted to read this to you. Ah, damn it, I need my glasses. Installing the M2 thermal pad. And I was like, what the hell's a thermal pad? Applicable only for M2 connectors with pre-installed thermal pads. Okay, well, these M2 drives didn't come with thermal pads. And I thought, well, okay. So the motherboard has its own thermal pad. That's why it didn't come with a thermal pad. But when you read these directions, I mean, it's kind of like a rude awakening. When using a single-sided M2 SSD, first attach the bundled M2 thermal pad to the pre-installed thermal pad on the M2 connector before installing the M2 SSD. Boom. Boom. You're like, oh, daggone it. This black material that I peeled right off of the motherboard is actually a thermal pad. Who knew, huh? Who knew? And so I always like to talk about my mistakes beforehand. Let's hit on the CPU. I talked about this in the last video. And man, oh man, I'm going to tell you, the orientation of the CPU, I've been really extremely worried about. It has a little arrow right here, which kind of points up, which matches an arrow right there. And, but I was always thinking, what if I put the CPU in wrong? And finally, I found a YouTube video of a guy, and he was talking about how to install the cooler. And I'm going to include that video in this video because I wanted to talk about the Liquid Freezer Pro Series ARCTIC liquid cooler. All right. Now, for a modern motherboard like this, let me get you the specs on the motherboard. I'm trying to look around. Okay, so this is our setup. So we got the Micro Center AMD Ryzen 9 9950X CPU processor, which is, I think, is the latest AMD processor, with the Gigabyte X870E AORUS master motherboard, which is an ATX form factor, DDR5 memory, 4 M2 slots, which we were just talking about, and we're going to get back to that in 1 second. And PCIe 5.0, we're going to talk about that again. USB 4 and Wi-Fi 7. Now this motherboard is not going to be connected up Wi-Fi, but at least you have that as an option if you wanted to put your computer someplace else. So let's while I'm on it, let's talk about the slots. Okay, so you got your CPU A. For some reason, this is the CPU B and the CPU C. And like I said, these are PCIe 5.0 slots. And you're like, what the hell, man? this is getting complicated, isn't it? And of course, talking to Grok, this is a Samsung 9100 Pro 8 terabyte drive. And of course, this is another 4 terabyte drive. So I was talking to Grok about, I said, what's the ultimate configuration that I want for these M2 drives? Well, 4 terabytes for your operating system was good enough. And by the way, the CPU A slot is where you want to install your operating system because it's closest to the CPU. You might get 1 nanosecond of better performance having that there. But I was going to put the 8 terabyte Crucial drive in the CPU A slot, and Grok said, no, you just need 4 terabytes. And then for the B, let's see, this is the A, B, and C. Okay, so for the B slot, this is where I'm going to install my virtual computers. If you're not familiar with the virtual computers, there's various virtualization software solutions like VirtualBox. And I asked Grok, and there's a whole new virtualization solution, and we'll get into that in a future video, that works with Linux Mint that I'll be using to install, because I want to run Windows on this computer, even though the overall operating system would be Linux Mint 22.2. But underneath that, I can run a virtual operating system, which will be Windows probably 11 running in a virtual operating system. And then, of course, this drive, the 9100, is going to be where I'm going to render and produce my videos. All right. And then finally, I asked Grok for the final slot, and this is actually a PCIe, which I don't know why the motherboard doesn't come with just PCIe 5. You'd think that all the slots would be PCIe 5. But this is actually a PCIe 4 slot. So there's no reason to buy a PCIe 5, which is a bit more pricey. I mean, this drive right here is almost $1,000. I mean, it was $900 plus tax, $967, I think, was what I paid for it. Okay, and then the 4 terabyte Crucials, by the time you bought 2 of them, you're looking at the same price as this one. But then for the final drive, I went with the Western Digital 8 terabyte drive, their latest version. I don't have the information here because, I just bought it and I wasn't going to buy it. I was like, oh, screw it, man. But all right, so let's get into the disk storage for 1 second and I'll explain things. I hope I'm not bouncing around too much here for you. Okay, so we've got all of this, 8 terabytes, 8 terabytes, 4 terabytes, 4 terabytes. And you're like, good God, man. You'd be surprised when you're working on videography how fast that disk space will go away. So what you want okay, with a computer, and a lot of people just use an external USB drive. You can buy, like I have a 28. Well, no, actually, it's a little less than that. I think I've got about an 18 terabyte USB drive that I connect externally to a previous computer build to offload the video. Because once you're going to fill these drives up. I mean, if you're producing videos on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever, you're going to rapidly fill up 8 terabytes. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what videography is all about. And so you have to offload those videos. And a lot of people were dependent on YouTube and Rumble, for example. Now, Rumble's not that big a concern, but let's talk about YouTubers for 1 second. There were a lot of people that I followed on YouTube back in 2019, 2020, mainly for technical reasons, because obviously I'm somewhat of a tech fanatic. And when COVID hit, they were talking about things, and on YouTube, you couldn't say that the jab was bad. You couldn't say that masks were bad. You couldn't say, because I got strikes. I almost lost my YouTube channel. I got 2 strikes for just talking nonchalantly about masks. And I said, I just questioned the efficacy of masks. And boom, YouTube, strike. We're taking your channel down. No, there were people that had 1 million followers on YouTube that just got nuked right off the platform. And unfortunately, they were depending on YouTube for the backup of their videos. If you didn't know, I mean, once you upload a video to YouTube or Rumble for that matter, I mean, those are the 2 platforms that I use, you can always download that video later on, if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to go to Odyssey and upload the video there. So they were using the cloud as their storage for their videos. Bad idea. I mean, when those channels got nuked, they lost all their videos. They were just gone. They were history. I felt sorry for them, man, because think about it. If you've produced 100, 200, 300, 400 videos and you put a lot of work into it, unlike me just standing here with a camera on a motherboard, because they go in and they do all kinds of graphics and, whatever. That's a hell of a lot of work, and they lost it all. So what you want is some sort of external storage, or in my case, look here, internal storage. This is the Seagate Iron Wolf Pro. Okay, this is a 28 terabyte drive times 2. So what we'll do is we'll be rendering the videos here on the Samsung 9100 Pro, and then we'll offload those videos to these SATA 3.5 drives. And of course, I mean, that's a hell of a lot of storage. So I don't need, and by the way, it'll be a hell of a lot faster with an internal configuration attached to the motherboard through a SATA cable than it will be plugging in a USB 3.0 external drive to offload those videos. So it's going to save me a tremendous amount of time. Now, this motherboard supports up to 6 SATA 2.5 drives. But when I looked at the 2.5 drives, which, same thing, it's kind of like an internal drive that you could have on the computer. Okay, when I looked at those drives, the max that I could find was like 4 terabytes, and then some of them came with 8 terabytes. Well, I'm getting that with the M2 drives. Why in the hell would I spend the money on a 2.5-inch SSD when I've got 24 terabytes on a 3.5 SSD? I mean, so, these are all things you got to think about. So let's get into the water cooler for just a minute here. Okay, so the first thing I had to do was the CPU, and I don't even know why. This is my second computer build. The CPU comes with a bracket right here, a vertical. If you want to look at it vertically, because we've got the motherboard sitting here in this fashion, and there was 2 vertical brackets. Now, to use the water cooler, okay, we're going to get into cooling the CPU. I had to unscrew those brackets, and then I put these brackets on. And by the way, if you see, they're kind of loose. Okay, and leave them just slightly loose until you're ready to mount the water cooler on the motherboard. Okay, and by the way, that more research. I was watching, well, like I said, we'll put the video in this video, so you'll see what I'm talking about.
Ryzen 9 9950X 3D, the special CPU by AMD that is meant for gamers and content creation. It's currently on the test bench here with the ROG Crosshair X870E Extreme motherboard. This is a $1,000 motherboard, and it's going to be powered by this 16-core 32-thread processor. So let's cool it properly. Let's call this our workbench over here. So this is the previous AIO I was using. This is the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 360mm AIO with a very thick radiator. Excellent top-tier performance that just got trumped by the Pro model. Yes, this just came out, and let's get it installed. Arctic's packaging is always straightforward, so we have the fan over here for the VRMs. Let's take this out. And so if you look closely right here, you'll see the nice little fan inside. So that'll help keep some of the RAM cool as well as the VRMs. And this, yeah, is a very good AIO. Actually, basically best in class. Never forget to take the plastic off here. This is one of my favorite things in the world here. Now, if you have an Intel CPU, they supply their own bracket for LGA 1700 and 1851 so that you have improved performance of cooling, and it makes a huge, huge difference. But we're using an X870E AMD-based motherboard, so we don't need that bracket. I shouldn't say don't need it. We can't use it. It's incompatible. But we can use these. These are the brackets that are offset to hit the hottest point of AMD CPUs. AMD motherboards come with these stock cooler brackets, and some coolers will use it. Most coolers these days don't really use these, so you're just going to remove this anyway because it's not compatible with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro. It's as simple as just unscrewing it and removing this. And you do this for both sides. You're going to want to save these and just put them back inside of your motherboard box. Arctic has labeled this package AMD because, hey, that makes it easier. These black extensions, you're just going to put over these right here. There's 4 of them. Just like that. And the left one goes on the left side right here. Well, my motherboard is sideways, but yeah, just like that. And you'll screw it down, but keeping it very loose. Same thing with the right one. Nice and loose. Secure the AIO to your case. That's kind of obvious. And we'll be using their included Arctic MX6 thermal compound, which is actually one of the best performers on the market. A common mistake is not taking off this plastic covering the copper. Make sure you do that. And then you're going to match up the screws that are here and here to the holes right there and there. This is why you want the brackets nice and loose so you can get it all on there. So with just 1 or 2 turns, this is on here, and now we can also tighten these down as well. And then when these are fully in, they'll just stop turning. You can now peel this part off. The RGB cable is already pre-attached, but in order to control the fan speed, pump speed, and the VRM fan speed, you have to attach this cable right here. And there's grooves on here. There's only one way that it can go in, which is this way, just like that. Ugh, I got big thumbs. Our fan and pump cables are properly routed here, and our RGB is actually over here, kind of wrapped it that way. And now, just to clip this on. And this is magnetic, so it just slides right on. Don't forget the peel. Let's install our limited edition Kingston Fury RAM, 8,000 megatransfers. This is like a Formula 1 racing RAM. And this extreme motherboard by ROG can handle RAM over 9 gigatransfers, or 9,000 megatransfers. So this 8,000 kit should do pretty well. Kingston sure knows how to make some RAM. Wow. And that's it. The Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 360mm AIO is going to be cooling the Ryzen 9 9950X 3D CPU. Now, what GPU should I use? If you're used to air coolers and you've been thinking of using an AIO, don't be too scared about it. It's very easy, as I just showed in this video, and the warranty is nice on this. It's like 6 years, so Arctic is one of the best out there. And bam, that is a very good looking AIO. And it looks even better in the dark. And if you like this video, go ahead and follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
I've seen plenty of power banks over my 15 years of reviewing tech, but this Ridge one quickly became...
Because that was the guy that helped me understand the water cooler to the max. Let's get on some of the equipment that's in this, or in the video studio. And we talked about this in the last video, but I thought I'd go over a couple of quick things, and we're just going to go through my notes. And I talked about the Gorilla Grip sticky gel memory foam wrist rest. You know, like I said, when you're typing, you want to type like this. You know, don't be typing like this, because you'll get carpal tunnel syndrome, and so that's one thing. And then, of course, we put in a mic. We got the Shure MV7i smart microphone with built-in audio interface and deluxe articulating desktop mic boom stand. And if you're ever going to buy a mic, go ahead and get the accompanying boom stand. You will never regret it. Don't try to mount. If you watch YouTube videos, a lot of people have the mic mounted on their desk. You know what? I'm going to tell you, having a boom stand is to me, because if you're doing serious work, your desktop is limited. And so having the boom stand, you can have that mic kind of come down from the top, which is what I've got. And we talked about that in the last video. And then, of course, I bought these Lexar D40E 128 dual USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-C jump drive, USB flash metal housing swivel design thumb drive. I bought 2 of those. And those plug into the back of my router, and I can use those for network storage because I'm not always working on the server. Sometimes I'm working on a laptop, okay? And I've rebuilt all of my laptops. I have 3 of them. One is the Cat Daddy running Windows 11. I got one running the 2 old laptops. By the way, if you're going to run an old laptop, don't use Linux Mint Cinnamon, the main platform. Linux Mint comes with LD, I think it's called LDME, which is a light operating system. If you just go to linuxmint.org, install that on your laptop. It freaking screams on a 2014 laptop, which is huge. All right, let's get back to the water cooler for just 1 minute. So this was the directions. Now you can see it doesn't really give you a whole lot. This is just the quick guide, and then of course you can get into the notes. By the way, the thermal paste. Every video I've seen, you know, I've seen videos like how to apply thermal paste. That was another question that I asked Grok and on the CPU. Some people put little dots around on the top of the CPU before you clamp the water cooler on there. Everything I've seen is just put an X. You're going to paste the thermal paste on an X across there. It doesn't matter if the thermal paste squishes out a little bit on the sides. You definitely you want a liberal amount, but not like, you know, you're not going to just go crazy. You know, it's not like a flood. You just put just enough, and then, but don't put too little. That's the main thing. And, you know, the nice thing was the water cooler came with its own thermal paste. I had it sitting here on the table somewhere, probably under my notes. Let's keep going with the notes. That's why I got all these up here. Oh, by the way, I wanted to talk about this. This just came in the mail. This is called the Rogue HERCULX graphics card holder. Now, a huge mistake I made on my previous build. Let's just show you the graphics card 1 second. It's in the bag. And we'll get into the specs on this. This is the the Gigabyte graphics card, and I'll explain why I went with the Gigabyte. But look at this monster. It's freaking huge, and it weighs a gazillion pounds. And so if you mount that graphics card into the motherboard, and you turn the case this way, okay, upright, that graphics card's going to be, all that weight's going to be trying to fall off, and it's going to tear that slot all to pieces. So you have to have some way of supporting that graphics card. And that's what this is all about. This is the best holder. And check it out. It's got RGB lighting. So believe me, my whole case is going to be lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. It's insane because everything's got LED lights. And by the way, this is the fan that goes on top of the cooler, which is the other great thing. By the way, piece of plastic here, you had to peel it off. I already peeled it off. This is actually a magnet, and it just clamps right on. Let's see. Anything else? So we talked about the brackets for the water cooler. Okay, so now we're going to get into the mounting. Well, let's go through the notes here. I just want to continue. I know I'm bouncing around. I want to make sure that I've covered everything. Oh yeah, so here's a couple of things you might need that it seems kind of crazy. So one of the things, these modern motherboards, I don't know why they don't have enough USB-C connectors a lot of times. So I had to buy a USB to USB-C cable adapter 2-pack, USB-C female to USB-A male adapter, and be sure and get the 10 GPS data transfer, 60 watt fast charging. So now I can plug USB connectors, C connectors into the USB-A 3.2 ports on the back of the motherboard. Okay, and the reason that I had to do that was I bought the Insta360 Link to Tripod bundle, and that is the PTZ 4K webcam for PC and Mac, 1/2 inch sensor, AI tracking, HDR, A1 noise canceling mic, gesture control for streaming, video calls, gaming, blah, blah, blah. And then it works, of course, on various platforms. Now, the Insta360, from everything I've studied, and we talked about this in a previous video, they're coming out with a new camera probably January of 2025. If I could have waited to buy it, I would have. But it never hurts to have two cameras. So I went ahead, and by the way, looking at $241 for this this camera. But I want to be able to conduct interviews across the internet. It's outstanding. I mean, it's pretty cool, and it's got this virtualization option where I can use a green screen in the background. Let's keep going. Let's see. We already got the motherboard. Okay, yeah, and by the way, I told you that was the water cooler is the acrylic liquid freezer 3 Pro 360. If I hadn't told you, which is an AIO. By the way, let's talk about cooling for 1 second. Air cooling a CPU, especially on these advanced motherboards, it's out. It's out. Those air coolers, I mean, they sit up like this high. I used an air cooler on my previous build. It was so big, it didn't, even though I had a big case, it didn't even fit in the case. I couldn't put the cover back on the case. So my case actually has no cover on it. I'm probably going to have to redo that build with a liquid cooler now that I know how to do liquid coolers, because I'd never done one before. But everything I've done on the internet, this is a 3 by 120 millimeter water cooling, 38 millimeter radiator, PWM pump, VRM fan, AMD. It supports AMD AM5, which is what I've got. And of course, you can use it with it, but only $94. I think my air cooler cost a hell of a lot more than that. And everything I've seen on YouTube and on the internet and Grok, this is the cat daddy, man, for cooling a processor. And then, of course, like I told you, this case is going to be lit up like a Christmas tree. I used the G.SKILL Trident Z5 Neo RGB series DDR5 RAM. And I talked about the RAM. We'll just hit on it real quick. This motherboard supports up to 256 gigabytes of RAM. Unbelievable. So rather than fill 4 slots with 32 gigabyte, I just bought 264. That gives me 128. And then, of course, you got to be careful about the slots. This is actually the A2, I think the B2 slot, rather than the A1 or the B1. And that's going to give me a really outstanding RAM performance. Let's keep going. I just kind of want to keep going through my my notes here. We'll get into the power supply after we talk about the, let's see, this is the battery, what the hell? This is the Ninja battery for HP. I don't know, that was $29. Because I wanted to get into some of the lesser components. Oh yeah, and one of the things I ran into was, because of the way my office is arranged, I've got 3-foot HDMI cables. And so what you can do, it was because I was looking into buying a 6-foot HDMI cable because I wanted to route the HDMI to my monitor. I got 4 monitors in my office. If you watch the last video, you'll see it. I'm not going to show you my office in this video. And so to make that work, but I got plenty of 3-foot cables. And so you can buy an adapter that you can actually hook HDMI cables together. And that's what this is. And you can, and that way I got basically a 6-foot cable. And then, of course, we went with the Red Dragon S101 MKS gaming keyboard and mouse, wireless with tri-mode, RGB, and once again, RGB. I tell you, my office is going to be lit up like a Christmas tree. All right, so let's get over to the case. And while I'm cutting on the lighting here, which I should have done before I started the video, there we go. Let's get one more light on. All right, so this, let me give you the case specs, because this is one of the most important things. Actually, this is the most important thing. And I'm looking for my notes on the case. I'm sorry. Okay, it's the NZT. If I could find it, I want to read you the whole spec. Hold on one second. We're going to pause the video right here. I'll get back. All right, sorry about that. I got the specs on it. But let me give you the hard drives that I went with first. So we got the Seagate Ironwolf Pro 28 terabyte Enterprise NAS internal HDD drive, CMR 3.5 inch, SATA 6 gigabytes per second, 7,200 RPM, 512 megabyte cache. And all right, I did want to talk about the speed. I did this in the last video. You can get 10,000 RPM. But it's a huge jump up in the price. For me, these drives, these 28 terabyte drives, are just for basically just offloading the videos from the M2 drives. So I didn't need the superior speed, but definitely don't buy the, 5200 or 5100. I can't remember. There's a lesser speed. Never get the lesser speed. At least get the 7200. Now we're going to get into the case. And this is the most important thing in a computer build. Because I screwed up on my last computer build. And this is the best case ever in the history of the universe. And I'm absolutely just amazed with this case. This is the NZXT H9 Flow RGB Plus 2025 large dual chamber ATX mid-tower airflow PC case. Now, you can buy a case without the fans. Don't do that. I screwed up on my last case. I didn't buy the fan, because you can get a case for $100 or whatever, and then you got to buy the fans separately. And by the time you buy the fans and your time and everything installing the fans, you have lost money, okay? But this case, with this combination, and same with the motherboard. I bought the motherboard and CPU as a combination, which is something you want to do. And this includes 7 RGB fans, 6 by 140 millimeter, 1 by 120 millimeter. It's got a control hub, which is, we'll get into that in the next video, because that'll be installing the motherboard. Having a control hub, by the way, is critical for wire management and everything. 420 millimeter radiator support, back connect ready black, and the case with the fans, $305. I mean, of all the things that I bought, almost $1,000 for this, almost $1,000 for the 2 drives. Good Lord, I think I spent $1,100. I'm going to tell you, the $300 means more for a computer build than anything else. And let's get over here and look at this wonderful piece of engineering. Okay, so this is the case. Now, if you look down in here, here's the fans. These came pre-mounted. And by the way, on my last case, I actually mounted the fans backwards. Since they're pre-mounted, I don't have to worry about it. Because, you assume that they've done it correctly at the factory. But look at the fans. You got that fan there. You got that fan there. And you got one more fan right here. Okay. And then, of course, the motherboard's going to mount right here. And so I was wondering where there's only one place left to mount the acrylic cooler. But, the big question that I had was which way to orient the cooler. Well, guess what? It comes with a little strap right here. And so when you're mounting the cooler, you actually have to hold it up to get these screws in, because it's sitting, I mean, by the way, the case has a nice shelf, so it's not like you can't set the radiator in the case, but to get the screw holes lined up, you used, and by the way, this is what tells you how to orient the radiator for the water cooler. All right. Now, if you read anything or study anything, they always say don't put the radiator in before you put the motherboard in. Well, look, you think I'm going to have any problem putting that motherboard in with the radiator installed? No, not on this case. Now, on other cases where you got a lot tighter space, you wouldn't want to put the radiator in, but I'm just trying to make progress as I wait on, because I got one more M2 drive, the Western Digital on order, so I'm still waiting on that. But let's pop the case up just a little bit. Hold on. I don't want to damage anything. I got to be real careful. So we're going to look here. Okay, so you can see the hard drives actually mount right in here, and that's what I popped out. So that's why those won't go in until I've done all my wire management. And these, of course, are the case connectors. Now, this is cool because, and I've got it unscrewed for the moment, because I was going to put, this thing supports up to 6 SSD 2.5 drives, and you could put them right, I mean, look at this, how easy that would be. You just put them right along here, and it's got the Velcro to lock in and everything, but I'm not going to use those. I'm using the M2 drives instead. And then, of course, what's nice is the power supply. Look here. It's just going to mount right here, all right? And we're going to get into the power supply in just 1 minute, and look at the cable management on this thing. It just comes right around. And okay, so let's get to the power supply. I think we've done enough with the case. I mean, this case is just unbelievable. Look at the ventilation, the fans. I mean, and of course this is going to be venting out. Now, I've seen people, they've had to do all kinds of crazy stuff with other cases. They actually had to take the fans off of the radiator and put other fans on here. No, not with this case. This makes it as simple as possible. Okay, let's get back to the power supply 1 second, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, so your power supply is also very important for these modern motherboards, and mainly because of the GPU. This is let's see if this is the Gigabyte NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5080 WINDFORCE SSF overclocked triple fan 16 gigabyte GDDR7 PCIe 5.0 graphics card. Now, these modern graphics cards, especially if you went with the 5090, they need huge amounts of power. Good God, I remember back in the day, a 900 watt power supply would be all you'd need. If you bought a 5090, which sells for like $2,000, I mean, look at this card. This card was $1,074 just for the 5080, which is one step down from the 5090, which is the latest version. You're looking at $2,000. And you better be, and by the way, from what I understand, you have to have a 1600 watt power supply. But since I only got the 5080 card, we're putting in the HX 1500i Corsair, and I did a lot of research. I can't vouch for power supplies. Everybody said this is a great power supply for my setup. That's why I went with it. You know, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, the main thing is to be supporting that graphics card. Now, to the motherboard's credit, the graphics card credit, it actually comes with a mounting bracket so that you can support, or either the motherboard or this did, I can't remember, to support the graphics card. But it's not pretty. And I wanted something that's going to give it a lot more support, because it was kind of a flimsy little bracket that's going to support that graphics card. If you ever move your case around, or you're moving to a new address and that server's getting bounced around, you don't want that graphics card doing this inside the case. This right here, this Rogue Hercula X, is going to just block that graphic card right in. You'll never have to worry about snapping. I mean, can you imagine? Look at the price of this motherboard, and it would destroy everything if that graphics card broke loose. Okay? So, all right, this was like 34 bucks. You say, oh my God, you spent $34 to support your graphics card. Okay, number one, it's got the LED lighting, so it's going to look pretty. And number two, I mean, I guarantee you that graphics card is it's going to be locked in 100%. So we don't have to worry about it. All right. Got a little long in the tooth on this video, but I wanted to show you how things are coming along. Now, when this server goes in my office, I've got, let's talk about the ports 1 second on the card. This has only got 3 display ports and 1 HDMI port. If you go with the ASUS card, it's got like 7 ports. So the ASUS card is actually better than the Gigabyte, but when I worked with Grok, because I got a Gigabyte motherboard, all right, it felt like the Gigabyte graphics card would be more compatible than the ASUS card with the Gigabyte motherboard. Now, if I'd used an ASUS motherboard, then I probably should, obviously you would want to buy the ASUS 5080 graphics card. So I just kind of giving you some things to think about. That's why I kept with that setup. All right, so the Ultimate Computer Studio build is, we're getting there. Peace out. Stay free.